Hello, my name is Guy Meyer. I'm here at the Central Marin Police Station in Larkspur, California, where I'm about to go inside and meet Chief Todd Cusimano, where I'll get to ask some questions and take a tour, and we'll find out what's new and going on here at what now is the Central Marin Police Authority. And this should be interesting. So let's check it out. We'll go inside.
How it came about,
Yeah.
and then kind of show you the infrastructure part, because it's one thing to look on the outside, it's another thing to actually see how we operate.
Right.
And then that story actually built the San Anselmo consolidation.
Yeah,
That's what it kind of,
so
full-time job. I think that's the thing, you go to these council meetings and you're talking about important things and you've been spending all your time, and to have a citizen, whether they agree with you or not, be there to listen, take it in, and ask the questions, because that's really the roadmap, right? I mean, what are we doing? Are we doing the right thing? And it's nice, but you only have usually one or two people, and you were one of them that were there. That was at some of those meetings, and it was really helpful, and it's important,
Yeah, I thank you. And it is important, and I think that a lot of things could be improved if we could muster up the energy as citizens to get involved, to show up at the council meetings and not quite feel.
Yeah, ask the tough questions and know you're going to be heard. And so you want to go out here, and then we'll come on in.
And Todd, tell me about this building.
Okay, so this building has a long history that started back in 1999. The citizens of Larkspur formed the 2050 committee, and what they did is they wanted to have a 50-year plan to identify infrastructure needs and changes for the city of Larkspur. The number one priority that committee actually came up with was a new police department. Our building at the time was a temporary facility. It was actually meant to be a library back in 1973. It was donated to the city of Larkspur by the Schultz family. It was not a police department, and as we built our police department up and consolidated in 1980 and continued through the late 90s, we were overcrowded, our facility was outdated, and we desperately needed a police facility for our community. And as you'll see, this building isn't just a police department, it's a community building, and there's a lot of community parts to this infrastructure that I'm really excited to share with you. So that started in 1999. It was the number one priority. From 1999 up until 2008, we worked with the citizens of Larkspur and Corte Madera and evaluated what the actual needs were for a police facility. And what they did is Eric Glass came in. He was the architect of this great, amazing facility, and he did a needs assessment. And so how that worked is they compared 20 other cities, similar size and needs and calls for service, and then they built our police facility office by office, square foot by square foot. So if you had a chief, you get a certain size office as a standard of the industry. If you have a captain, 12 by 12 office, and it just went down from there, and they actually built our police department. We continued with that assessment. That was finished in 2004. From 2004 to 2007, we actually had a number of community meetings to really identify the needs and the structure of absolutely what did we want. Did we want it to be green? Was 17,000 square feet enough? Was it too much? And we actually had a public conversation for a number of years, and that is what you see today. And so this isn't just something that just, hey, this is what we want. It was actually built by the community, and it's really special. This building is green platinum, certified platinum. What that means is the solar panels that you see, we give back power to the PG&E grid on a daily basis. Our utility bills are approximately $5,000 a year for this building. Everything is green. It's very exciting. This building also can withstand a major earthquake or natural catastrophe. This building will be standing. It houses the Emergency Operations Center for our communities. It also houses the state-of-the-art dispatch center, and we'll go through that, and I'll show you some of those capabilities.
Let me just ask a couple of questions. From the street, looking at the station without going inside and taking the tour, it does seem to be much larger than you would perhaps, visualize a police station for this community. We have two towns here originally, Larkspur and Corte Madera, and I guess about a 25,000 population for the both of them or so?
Approximately.
So it appeared to some, me, maybe other, that was rather big, like imposing. But this was all, as you say, kind of based on a very thought-out plan to include everything that you felt that was necessary.
It's a great question that you ask, and that is the special thing about what this community is all about. And so let's back up now. Yeah. It was built by the community, but you had to have a scientific process of how we come up with what we think we need, and then you include the community through the whole process. And the great thing about this is the needs started with the community on the 2050 plan. Yeah. We got consultants that helped us identify what we really need. And then we continue that conversation for a period of years with the community of this is what it's going to look like, this is how it's going to feel, this is what it's going to be used for. Do we all agree? And that's really what's built. And so it's true. Someone that comes out from a different city and comes down and sees the building will have questions. The beautiful thing about this and the really amazing and important fact of this, the community was part of it from the start. When you come down Doherty Drive and you start to look at the building now, it blends into the hillside. It blends in to Hall School's gymnasium. When you really step back and look at the beauty and the architecture of this, a lot of thought was put into it, and the community helped us build that. It's just not a building. There's a lot of things that come with this. It's just not bricks and mortar. And I really want to point that out. And as we go through it, I hope it jumps out at you also of what we actually do. There is crime in this area. There are a lot of things that happen that our community at the time didn't necessarily understand, but as we went through the process, it became really clear what the needs are. Safety, bringing communities to us. We have neighborhood associations, neighborhood groups, the Chamber of Commerce. We want to bring them to us. This community room that we're going to go into is an emergency operations center in the event of a disaster, but it's also a community room for our community. We want them to come to us. This is their building, and give them the state-of-the-art resources they need. And really, we're just one facet of the partnership of the 12 sectors of our community. We're one of 12. And this is what this building does for us.
Now, was there thought in these early stages that someday you might be providing services for more than Corte Madera and Larkspur? Was this part of a greater vision that somebody had? Or?
Yeah. As you spend some time with me today, you're going to see that something that's near and dear to my heart is the policing model, and you have to change. Policing, over in the 60s and 70s and 80s, some of the things worked well. Some things work well today from that model, but we have to constantly evolve. As we went through this process, I think it was always in the back of everybody's minds, and when I say that, the community, the council, the police department, to have options, to really look at, could this be the foundation of something special? It has to make sense. Yeah. And here are two things that it has to make sense, and we'll talk about it a lot. I think it has to save some money for our citizens because public safety is very expensive. And the second thing is it has to improve the service delivery of our police department for all of our communities. That had to happen. And so in the back of our minds, that was always part of this process. And then when we moved in and we started to build this, and when we moved in, it became clear that this is the foundation of something really special for our region. And how do I define the region? I don't know at the end of the day what it's going to end up being. But I can tell you right now it makes a lot of sense, and 3 communities are supported by this building, and it really is the foundation and a springboard of something special. And it's the policing model, the service delivery of community-oriented policing, being proactive as a police agency, not reactive. Right. If you look at every other agency in Marin County, the Bay Area, they become reactive police departments. It's because they froze positions, they made cuts, and they're holding on. They're just holding on. Okay. And when you're reactive as a police agency, a lot of bad things happen. And so this building really helped us build the foundation of what we need to accomplish our ultimate goal.
Okay, well let's take a little closer look.
Come on in. Ready? So one thing, we're in the lobby area now. I wanted to point out some features for the lobby that was necessary for this building that we didn't have in our old building. Security. It happens about 5 times a year. You can get someone very distraught and something really hostile happens in the front office. And before, we didn't have security for our employees and the citizens that were in our building. We have that now. And so there were a couple important points that we really wanted our lobby to take in. We didn't want it too gaudy and too big, but we wanted it to really be respectful and vibrant and something that our community can be proud of, but it also had to be safe. And so what you see here is, this is all ballistic, this entire wall. It has ballistic rated glass and walls, and so it's safe. So everyone on that side of the building is safe. And that's important because as we go through, you'll see what we have over there. But this area is also nice. Hopefully you agree that you don't think it's too gaudy. We used our square footage the best way we thought we could. This room actually supports the community room too. So when our community members are here at night with a meeting, they can come in here. There's bathrooms off to the side. It's a safe environment and a nice environment. I'll show you in a little bit. We have 3 interview rooms. In our old building, if you were a suspect of a crime, being fingerprinted for the state, or you were a victim of auto burglary, you were in the same room. We only had 1 room. Now we have specific rooms for specific needs and things. And so this building is really, it's laid out really nicely, and hopefully it starts to make sense as we go through it.
How long have you been a police officer?
I've been, I started my career with Twin Cities Police Authority back in 1995. And so I've been with Twin Cities and now Central Marin for 18 years. And this August I'll have been the chief of police here for 3 years.
So you were pretty active in the days when this was in those community meetings, and you were part of the...
From 1999 to now, I've actually, from an officer all the way up to chief, I've been part of the project team. And so this is really near and dear to my heart. My dad grew up in Corte Madera on the Bayside, and he was a police sergeant here for 34 years for Corte Madera Police and Twin Cities Police Authority. And so this area, I didn't grow up here necessarily. I grew up in Petaluma, but this is really near and dear to my heart. And yes, this project, this police facility project, has been my #1 project for some time. So, as you'll see, and I talk a lot, just shut me down.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So, Guy, what you see here, this is the community room. So 90% of the time, this room is used as a community room. It's state of the art. Our whiteboard, our video audio capabilities. This is all state of the art. We use this for all of our neighborhood groups, all of our community groups in Corte Madera, Larkspur, and San Anselmo, as well as Greenbrae.
Now, how many, when you say community groups, so actively right now people are coming in, what type of, like a neighborhood association would be meeting, or what type of community group?
A neighborhood association, a disaster group committee. It could be the Chamber of Commerce. It could just be small pockets of neighborhoods that are just really want to form and ask questions and do disaster preparedness, community events.
Is that more the frame of the ones who are here? Because I wouldn't imagine a San Anselmo group is necessarily going to come here just for the facilities, unless maybe it was involved with a disaster preparedness.
So we have, that's true. We've had chamber events here with San Anselmo, and we actually do have neighborhood groups that have come here from San Anselmo. We have about 30 to 40 really formed, well-formed groups within the 3 communities, and they use this on a regular basis.
Okay.
And that's the whole point of it, you know.
Okay.
It's very exciting. This is also the Emergency Operations Center, and so if it was activated, this is for Corte Madera, Larkspur, and it also supports San Anselmo. And what you would see would be these tables would then turn into 6 specific areas, and then we would activate our Emergency Operations Center in the event of a major flood, a natural disaster, a critical incident. We have the full audio video capabilities where we could communicate with our vehicles and the people out in the field. Very exciting, the technology and infrastructure in this building.
Well, who would, in an event of an emergency, which obviously is one of the reasons why you guys are here, to be able to react and be there for the community, who would be here in this building in that situation? Who would be your force, or would there be other?
So our force would be out in the field. It would be myself. It would be my 2 commanders, my captains, and then we would have the fire department personnel here, personnel from Public Works, the city and town managers. We may have the mayor, a few council members.
Okay.
We would have someone from finance. And the nice thing about this is when you have a disaster or a critical incident, the problem is the smaller communities of 20,000 less in population, you have less resources. And what is nice about this is we actually support each other. And so if there's something in San Anselmo, Larkspur, or Corte Madera, we have 3 sets of staff members, 3 public works directors, fire
in each
chiefs.
town?
Between the three of us.
Oh, right, exactly.
And so we can support each other. If someone's in another city and they can't get here for public works,
Right.
we could reach out to the other two communities and see if we can have a public works official here. And so we all support each other. As we're responding to a disaster as a region and using all of our resources. So we're much stronger. And it's just a really great resource. But to answer your question, every department head within the city would be here.
But let's say if just hypothetically, in an emergency where things are going on at some level of emergency status or criticalness that might make it difficult for the city manager to want to leave, or, the people who are in charge, let's say, of San Anselmo. San Anselmo is the community that's not adjacent to Larkspur and Corte Madera, the Twin Cities. So is this a little more demanding then on their representation to be here?
Yeah, it's a good question. So right now, Corte Madera and Larkspur, this is the primary EOS Emergency Operations Center for them.
Yeah.
San Anselmo still has their primary emergency operations center in San Anselmo.
Yeah.
The thing that San Anselmo actually gets that Corte Madera and Larkspur, I guess, wouldn't, is they have us as a backup, an additional backup. So let's say there's a major flood in the downtown,
Right.
and they can't get to their emergency operations center. Remember the last one that happened?
Right.
They had difficulty even accessing the emergency operations
Right, the
center.
fire department.
What we could do in that case is, it doesn't matter where your emergency operations center is. It matters where the people are. And so we would have all of our forces in San Anselmo, but we could activate this emergency operations center and support them from here. And let's say the city or town manager couldn't even get to, but maybe they were stuck at their house. We actually have the technology where we could actually, they could sit at a table, they can open up their iPad or laptop computer, and they can activate our reporting system, our dispatching system. They can see and feel everything just like they were here. And so we have the technology to support that. We're one of the only agencies in this area that have that technology. And so it's pretty amazing, the infrastructure we have and the redundancies, right? You want backups. San Anselmo still has their emergency operations center there. But if it went down, they could have it here. If this building went down, I could pull up a laptop computer, I could put on an ear set, and I could actually take 911 calls from my laptop computer and dispatch units to the scene if I wanted to.
Well, I'm wondering if in San Anselmo, and I'll keep speaking in regards to San Anselmo as a town I lived in
Sure.
for many years, and I have a lot of connections and roots in that community. So I'm thinking in terms of the redundancy and this backup, you can see the benefits of that. But in terms of, let's say, a active response in a simple manner to something going on in San Anselmo, isn't it become a little more difficult when you're sitting with two other communities left and right, and
No.
how do you perceive difficult decisions, let's say, being made in a state of emergency here within this emergency context?
It's a good question. It's a perception, I think, of the community. But for me, as the department head and the chief of police responsible for a population of approximately 35,000,
Right.
I have more resources within my agency per population. Right now, 35,000 than San Rafael and Novato have right now. I have more command staff. I have more officers and middle staff members to assist me in an emergency than any of them have. And so when you say three communities, I look at it as one. There are three areas of responsibility. I have more resources available to me to do my job, to protect the community today than I have ever had in the history of San Anselmo, Corte Madera, or Larkspur. We had a possible flash flood incident in San Anselmo a few months back. It happened right away. It rose up. It was approximately half an inch from hitting that building and flooding the downtown local. We had two additional officers there that supported San Anselmo, and San Anselmo wouldn't have had that prior to a consolidation. And we had, immediately within 7 minutes, we had 3 administrative staff members that were on scene. Within the first half hour, I had 6, and I was one of them. To see it, feel it, because that's something that's new.
And this was prior
And
to
it
the
was,
consolidation,
and it was,
right?
yes, and it
So
was
in a-
right. It was right in December, but we had taken charge already. We were already, the structure
Right.
hadn't changed.
Right.
And that's exciting to me because in the past you might have one person and I would be somewhere else and have to rely on them. Now I have a 6-person staff that supports me. I'm one of the 6. And so really I look at it as you have 2 administrators for each area of responsibility that we're not spread out. We have more resources, and that's really the important point. You know, we save money, but we save money with redundancies.
Right. Well,
you know, and you'll get that. But no, to answer your question, we have more resources and more redundancies built into disasters or emergencies than we've ever had, and that's what's really exciting. And this is important. This room is very important to that.
So in terms of being responsive to even though, you know, you look at it as one community, they are in fact 3 different communities with different populations who elect their own officials to represent them. And so you perceive it as that you are able to give each community, maybe in your perspective, an even improved response to their needs. Is that what you see?
Or else we wouldn't be here. And when we talked about the building, how we got the process of the building to today, the process of this consolidation happened the same way. It didn't happen with just 2 chiefs or a manager or a council member figuring this out. This was well thought. This was over. What do you want? We do have 3 areas. Corte Madera is a little bit different than Larkspur is. Larkspur is a little bit different than San Anselmo is. But what are the needs of the 3? And this is what we've built.
And your force of officers and staff, do you have them assigned? Do you have people who are doing a San Anselmo beat or a Larkspur, or you know, Larkspur and Corte Madera are adjacent and close, so they're pretty small. So I would imagine that would be very easy to just be patrolling or whatever. How does that?
So and I plan to talk about it upstairs, but a basic overview of it is this is what we wanted to do. We wanted to, on any given time, add 2 additional police officers to every city and town. And then during the busiest times of the day, add even more. And that's what we did. And so
2 than what was prior?
Yes.
Really?
That's what we did. And so, and that's to explain service delivery. That's the thing, because the 60s and 70s and 80s policing model, it was every community member knew their police department. And in order to do that, you have to have enough officers to get out on the street, walk the downtown, walk the residential areas. That's the model we built. This station is the Central Marin Police Station. San Anselmo Station is the Central Marin Police Station. Operationally, this is the Larkspur Station. That's the San Anselmo Station. They're both fully operational 24/7. What we also did is if you call us, it doesn't matter if it's a quality of life issue, what time it is, someone is coming. You can't say that with other agencies, but San Anselmo, Larkspur, and Corte Madera have always gotten that, and they always will.
They had that before, though.
They have always had it, and they always will. And that was important because we weren't going to be able to continue that if we kept going the way we were going. We also wanted, for people that don't want us to come to their house, they can come to Larkspur, they can come to San Anselmo. We also utilize all of the firehouses in San Anselmo, Corte Madera, Larkspur, and Green Bray. So people can go there too. Those are substations. So the 2 primary stations are here in San Anselmo. We always have officers in San Anselmo. We always have officers in San Anselmo. And that's important.
All right. And you know, I think I kind of took it off track a little bit, but you know, all the issues we touch are...
It's important because it comes up.
Okay. Well, we've decided to sit down here and pause for a second now, picking up the conversation. So in an emergency situation,
right,
as the chief of the Central Marin Police Authority, who is your superior in the state of emergency? Right. Who do you use? It a panel or a group, or how does it work?
Well, I answer first let's back up because it's important, because it's no difference if it's an emergency or day-to-day. Local control is very important. It's very important. And so it's important to identify the structure. And so this is how it works. The Central Marin Police Authority, the overall governing body of the authority, it is 6 council members. It's 2 council members from each city or town. I have 2 from Corte Madera, 2 from Larkspur, 2 from San Anselmo. That is the governing board. Some important things to note on that board. When it is a major issue of budget, personnel, things that are important where you absolutely need that local control, you need a majority vote for that to pass. But what's unique to really, and people miss this important point, you need a yes vote from each community. So 2 communities couldn't team up on one. It's local control, it's important. And so that governing body is the overall arching body of the police authority. Next, you have a management committee. The management committee consists of the city and town managers from each community. Those 3 are my bosses, because next I'm underneath them. I'm the chief of police, I'm in charge for operations. They delegate a lot of authority to me, but the bottom line is I answer to them and everybody above them. The uniqueness about us, and really I think it would just go from, it depends on who the 15 council members are, because really I look at this is I have 15 council members and I have 3 managers. I mean, the police council is the body that I answer to, but I answer to.
And how often do you meet with the police council? What is it must be a regular scheduled thing? Or
as needed. When we are doing the building and the consolidation, it was once a month. Really, we usually meet quarterly. You know, every 4 months we'll meet, or as needed. But either myself or one of my staff members also attend all of the council meetings in Corte Madera, Larkspur, and San Anselmo. So there's 6 of those a month.
Well,
and that's important.
Takes us back to in calm times and when everything is running normal and California's behaving itself. That seems like it might be a relatively effective and good way of doing it. In a case of an emergency, where we're in a small town, you would have a mayor and the police chief who was hired by that town, and right there in that situation there can be a give and take. Does that make it, in an emergency, you're more or less, you're pulling the best minds are here, but how do you see the operation of police authority at that point in time? It gets more complicated.
It actually doesn't. The authority lies with me. Ultimately, I'm responsible for my decisions, and I'm held accountable for them. And that governing body would hold me accountable for those decisions at a later time. But in that actual event, that authority of policing is solely my responsibility. And I have people that I would absolutely coordinate with, and I have to answer to. And I absolutely would. I'll give you an example. We average approximately 4 special response team call-outs a year. That's the SWAT team. We have 4 in the county, and we're one of them. And that's a good example. You have an incident that normal police officers can't handle. It's high risk. You have someone that's maybe psychologically unstable, and it's a life or death type of incident. Of course, at that time, I take those very seriously. And and if I have time, I want as many heads in that room as possible to help me with that decision. And so I don't look at it as a negative. It doesn't slow me down. It's not a hindrance. It's part of communicating and knowing your responsibilities. But
I'm just wondering, in terms of myself, and I'm still, I'm more, I somehow picture a local police being more, the ability to be more responsive would be being kept local. If you were in one of these nasty, dramatic SWAT type situations, it would seem that you wouldn't have necessarily easy access to, a one elected official who would say, Chief, I think that we need to slow this down a little bit before we go in there with whatever. We're dealing with this a lot in our world, obviously.
Absolutely. It wouldn't be an elected official in that situation. It would be the city or town managers. And I've had double-digit times already in my time being the chief of police. I've never had an issue of getting a hold of a city or town manager within a couple minutes. But here's the other answer to your question. If I can't get a hold of anyone and I'm in a situation like that, that's what they pay me for.
Sure.
I'm educated. I very rarely will do it, but I'm one of the best at my business, and that's what I'm here for. But mistakes are made. I'm held accountable. It stops with me, and that's why I'm in my position. And regionalizing and doing some of the things we're talking about, it's important because you always want to get better. You don't do this job to be defensive. You do it to be proactive and to win. And that's what this is all about. And it's made me better as a chief to go through this process. because it's a challenge. You know, you get stuck in a rut sometimes when you're just, if you look around some of these other cities and towns, and I'm a citizen just like you, I'm a citizen of Petaluma, and I look at my local government and I ask the same questions you do. What do I want from my government officials? I want them to be responsive, I want them to provide the service and the quality of life issues that we have, and I want them to do their job, and I want them to be damn good at it. And that's what it's about, and I think that is the expectation of our community. And the last part, we've had some great surveys. Measure E, when we got this building, they did a survey of what the community thought of their police department and how we're doing. We've had another local survey for Larkspur that evaluated as one of the questions their public safety and the police department. And we have received over an 80% approval rating from our communities. That tells me we're doing the right thing. That's one of the highest in the state. You know, that's what fire departments get. And so that's the reinforcement I need to know that we're doing the right thing and to continue to be proactive and how can we get better. And it's all tied together, it's service.
Well, I'm just speaking for the citizens who like to feel that their community has, shall we say, the civilian, the elected populace has a strong voice, particularly when things get really tough. I mean, we are living in a world that just seems to be changing rapidly. We're seeing population growth here, even in Marin County. And of course, we're susceptible to a variety of disasters that may befall us. Well, we don't know. So again, it kind of, sometimes the kind of the rule by committee, I think for many people's experiences, can be a difficult thing to sometimes even, particularly maybe even in an emergency. So that there's a point there, which we like to see some type of, whether it be city manager or authority or whatever, that's there, because some type of things where you might be dealing with might take more than a half hour, an hour. It might be something that runs over 3 or 5 days. We might be something that.
But here's the thing, in an emergency, sometimes you don't have time to have a committee approach. I don't have time to you have to make decisions in an emergency. But a majority of the time, you don't. The nice thing about this, I think what some people, maybe the 5% that question and go, God, what are we doing? And I want that oversight. I want that committee approach. There is no other police department in the state of California that has the oversight that the Central Marin Police Authority has. I have 15 council members. I have 3 city and town managers that oversee this department. I answer to a body, but really, we work with all 3 communities. It's open, it's transparent. If there's an issue in Corte Madera, we're there, and we're going to deal with it. Not many communities can do the oversight that we have. Think about it. I have 3 city managers. You have 3 heads, 3 professionals that are good at what they do, that can ask the questions, to me and make sure I'm doing what they want. And then we have a police council that oversees the police operations that can answer those tough questions. But then we have 3 additional city and town councils that can continue to ask those questions to go, yes, police council, you made a good decision, but us in Corte Madera or San Anselmo, we have some more questions that we want to talk about, the policing and service model, or maybe decision-making or financial decisions you're making on our behalf. And we go to them and we answer, and that is and for me, I don't take it as a crutch, a hindrance. That's what this is all about. I want that.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking.
And it's important.
That there may, sometimes when you have that many heads and bodies in there that are supposedly in charge, it kind of dilutes a single person having a sense of the buck stops here, which is what you would get if we had an elected mayor. Of course, these communities don't have elected mayors; they're kind of appointed. But we have something where
the buck stops with the police council. The bottom line is that's where it stops. That it's in place, it's alive and well, and I'm held accountable because I'm the one that ultimately made those decisions. But I'm about being transparent. I've been meeting with a lot of because I think at the time we talked about saving money. And we did. With the redundancies, we went from 70 employees between the 2 organizations to 58. We saved $1.7 million in salary benefits for 3 communities. But what we didn't do a good job of sharing with people was, okay, now why is service better? Because people think, well, you made so many cuts, Now you're so diluted, you don't have enough people to complete your mission in all 3 of our communities. That's not the case. We actually have more people in our jurisdictions to complete. We got rid of the stars, the bars, and the stripes, the duplication for the 2 agencies, and we added it to the field, the street, where the street officers need to be. And the other part is the service. Everybody I go to, they have my business card, they have my cell phone number. It was just last weekend, I was helping one of the local community members who owns a business in San Anselmo. It was 10:45 at night on a Saturday, called my cell phone and had a quality of life issue. We problem solved it that night. We had a game plan for Monday morning to help him get what he needs to do. That's what this is all about. It's about being able to know who to get the job done. Not because they went through a certain way or they yelled or they, because they need help. This is important stuff.
All right. Let's take a pause. I think we've used